Well, good morning. My name's Jon Hoadley. I'm the state representative for Kalamazoo, serving the folks in the 60th district, and I'm so happy to be here because today we're talking about our fundamental building block of democracy, that's our right to vote. You know, sometimes our rights get tossed around in the partisan environment here in Lansing, but my colleagues and folks from across the state are ready to stand up for all voters and introduce the Voter Bill of Rights. The 2016 election was a shock to so many of us. You know, and I don't say that from a sector of partisanship. I say that from the perspective of a legislator who saw the obstacles that so many folks faced while voting, in long lines, crowded polling locations, extensive wait times. Engaging in the democratic process shouldn't make you late for work or have to miss your kid's soccer practice. It's critical that our elected leaders work to make voting more accurate, modern, and secure for everybody in Michigan. And unfortunately, we've seen over the last few years, legislation that has been introduced or moved in the process actually enacts voting barriers instead of breaking down the obstacles to voting. Laws that were passed to prevent local governments and municipalities from providing factual information about important ballot proposals were challenged in courts. Bills that would have allowed for no reason absentee voting, so folks under 60 have the same opportunities to vote as those who are over 60, died in committee. Bills that would have created early voting in our state didn't even get a hearing. And perhaps most shockingly, last December, a package of voter ID bills, and the same types of bills that have been repeatedly ruled unconstitutional by state Supreme Courts across the country, passed the Michigan House. So with everything that's happened in Michigan over the last year, we cannot restore trust in government unless our citizens know the legislature is going to protect their right to vote, not suppress it. That's why the creation of a voter Bill of Rights is so important. Now, if you like voting and you like the Bill of Rights, you are going to love the Voter Bill of Rights. This bill makes the voting process more accessible for thousands of Michiganders and who are working to provide for their families and themselves, who may find barriers to voting. For some, their work schedules make it impossible for them to get to where they need to be on election day. Or if they are able to sneak away for a few minutes during lunch, sometimes they're forced to leave lines because they have to get back to work on time. And we shouldn't have to make choices between showing up on time for work and engaging in the democratic process. For others, a lack of transportation may mean that they're uncertain how they'll get from their polls, and this provides absentee voting for anybody in our state. The entire process, from registering to vote in Michigan to dropping your ballot in the ballot box, hasn't improved in 20 years, while other states, red and blue, have left us in the dust. So we know not only from anecdotal evidence, but from the fact that Michigan is currently the last in the nation for government transparency and accountability, that we need to do something. Despite the dismal ranking, there are some things that we could do to fix the problem that are right in front of us with the Voter Bill of Rights. Among the provisions in this bill, we would enshrine the right to vote. We would ensure that everybody can access an absentee ballot, much as they can in 27 other states. It would allow for in-person early voting for up to 15 days before an election, something that 34 other states currently allow. It would allow to automatically send ballots to American citizens who are working overseas, including the men and women who are serving in our armed forces. Additionally, it would allow for the creation of automatic voter registration. So your right to vote happens automatically in a modern and quick process that would reduce errors and save money while allowing folks to still opt out of the process. Together, the rights guaranteed in this bill will not only modernize the voting process in Michigan, but it will outline in no uncertain terms that our right to vote is not up for partisan games. When people take the time and responsibility to vote, we must guarantee that their voices are heard, acknowledged, and taken into account. That cannot happen unless we put the power back in the people who elect our officials. So it's time to make sure that every vote matters, and it's time to support the Voter Bill of Rights. To talk a little bit more about why folks are excited about the Voter Bill of Rights, I want to bring up Patrick Schuh, the Michigan Director of America Votes.
Thank you, Representative Hoadley, for your leadership and your colleagues' leadership on this issue. Good morning. My name is Patrick Schuh. I'm the Michigan Director for America Votes. We're a coalition of several dozen organizations working to modernize elections and protect our right to vote. Politics is all about finding similarities where we only see divide or differences, but we should all agree on protecting the fundamental right to vote and ensuring everyone's voice is heard and votes are counted regardless of party. However, over the last few legislative sessions, we have witnessed effort after effort to put up unnecessary obstacles to voting, like the legislature's unsuccessful effort to pass strict photo ID and propose local preemption surrounding election administration. Instead, our legislature should be passing modernizations that will in fact make our elections more secure and accurate by creating opportunities and systems that ensure no eligible voter is turned away at the polls or vote not counted. The way we preserve the integrity of our elections is by passing strong rules that ensure everyone's voice is heard and those taking the responsibility to vote have their votes counted. When one eligible voter is turned away because of a spelling error, they've moved, cannot drive the long distance to their local clerk's office, or cannot vote because of work, the fundamental fabric of our democracy is at stake. That's why clerks across the state, our own Secretary of State, and the organizations that are a part of our coalition have called for many of the modernizations and values embedded in Representative Hoadley's proposal. This proposal is a great step forward to making our elections more modern and accessible. Our government is supposed to be of, for, and by the people, but in today's political environment, wealthy campaign donors and politicians are writing the rules in their favor, choosing their voters, and creating an economy and democracy rigged against the rest of us. That's why we stand here today calling on our legislature to adopt the Voter Bill of Rights. Now I'd like to introduce former Wayne State Law Dean and Election Law Professor Jocelyn Benson.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm here today as a concerned citizen, someone who cares deeply about ensuring that every voice is protected. I'm here as a military spouse whose husband was deployed in Afghanistan during the 2012 presidential election. And I'm here today as someone who's worked nationally and seen how these reforms can help voters in other states and are helping voters in other states ensure that they are able to be engaged and informed and involved in the political process. I'm here to support Representative Hoadley's effort to modernize our elections here in Michigan and bring simple things to the table, simple innovations that are in place in if not many or most other states, like absentee voting for all, like early voting, like automatic voter registration, which has been implemented in states like California and Oregon and Connecticut, where we've seen significant impact for all and benefits for all voters. And so I'm proud to support this legislation. I'm proud to stand in support of the Voters' Bill of Rights. And I wanted to share just a quick story of when I was working as a poll worker in a presidential election a few years ago. And a young woman ran into the election. It was her first election. She was a young voter. It was very clear she was excited to vote. She had her driver's license out and ready to go. And when she came, finally, after waiting in line, came up to present her driver's license, we looked at it and we looked at the polling book and realized that she was registered to vote at a different address and that she therefore should be voting in a different precinct. And we explained this to her and she said, "What do you mean? I registered 6-7 months ago and I've moved, but I haven't. I moved shortly after that, but I want to be able to vote right down the street from where I live now." And we had to explain to her that she had to go across town to where her former address was and vote there. And she didn't have time to do that. At that point, it was 15 minutes until the polls closed and the drive was more than 15 minutes away. Long story short, she left that day without voting. And she left that day not just without voting in that election, but feeling dejected and frustrated that the process was so difficult. And that really had an impact on me because there was a presidential election, a young woman excited to participate, and 10 minutes after being at the polling place, she left frustrated at the complexities of the process. But if she had been in another state with some of the provisions like are in this bill, she would have been able to vote no problem in many other ways. And so I support this legislation for all the voters out there there who we want to hear their voice heard, regardless of who they vote for, regardless of what party they're a part of. Their voice matters in Michigan, and this legislation will bring us one step closer to being in par with many other states that are already in modernizing their processes in this way. Thank you.
So at this point, I want to make sure we open up for questions. I do want to give a shout out. This is we're continuing the work that Representative Driscoll introduced last year. So I was proud to be part of that legislation then. She can't join us today, but she's so eager and continued to do this work that I did want to mention and thank Representative Driscoll, former Representative Driscoll, for her hard work.